Well, let's get more now on this vaccination registration system. The announcements by the Health Minister, Bhekisisa, about how the system will actually work. Malan is the editor of the Bhekisisa Centre for Health Journalism. Mia, good afternoon to you. I can imagine you've been run off your feet today. All right, the idiot's guide, please. I'm the idiot. How does this work? How do I get my parents onto the system?
So you go to the government's electronic vaccination data system, open it, you can access it. Obviously you need internet, so you can access it from a computer or from a smartphone. And then you're going to need a couple of things to fill in to register. And the main things that you will need is your ID number, if you're South African. If you're not South African, you would need a passport number, or you can also use an asylum seeking number or a refugee number. And you would need an address, because if you don't fill out an address, then the system wouldn't know how to allocate a site closest to where you either live or work to you. You need a phone number, not just so that they can let you know when to get vaccinated, but also so that they can send information in general to you. And if you belong to a medical aid, you would need that medical aid number so that the government knows who to bill for your vaccination. Once you have registered, if you're above 60, only people of 60 years and older can register right now. Once you've done that, you'll get a message on the screen that says they will send you an SMS within 24 hours to let you know that your registration was successful. If you don't get a message within 24 hours, it means something went wrong with your registration and you would have to go back to the site and re-register. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And once you registered, you're going to have to wait for a SMS to let you know when, the date that you can get vaccinated and which site. No vaccines yet, so you're not going to get a message like that within the next couple of days or so. We first need our first vaccines to arrive.
Okay, so just so that I understand this, I do all the stuff, I get all the information together. It's going to take me a week just to do that. But once I've done that and I go on the site, my phone's going to beep once with the SMS saying that I've registered, and then whenever my vaccine dose or my parents' vaccine dose or whoever it is arrives, my phone's going to beep again, and that's when I'm going to get more information. Have I got that right?
Yes, that's correct. So you will get an SMS that tells you what is the date of your vaccination. If it's a Pfizer vaccination, it will be 2 dates because you will need 2 shots. If we are continuing to use J&J, it will only be 1 shot. And it will then also give you a unique number that you take along with your ID or whichever ID document you used to the site to confirm that it's you. And once you had all your shots for a particular vaccination, you will get an electronic vaccination certificate.
Okay, so obviously you need to keep all of those numbers, and maybe I need to write them down if I get them on an SMS. And so if you don't get any SMSs at all, and this is often a frustrating thing that we've seen in some computer systems, if you don't get an SMS at all, then you go back and you just do it again and hope for the best. And often that should work, hopefully, the second time round.
Yeah, there's also a number that you can call. I don't have the number with me, but there is a toll-free number that you can call. And just now in a press conference, the person who heads up the system announced that they have tested it and it can do 3,000 registrations per second. And if there's a need to increase that, they have the capacity to double that number that can register at the same time.
If you want to be more efficient than that, you're going to have to ask SARS. When you have a system like this, so there are people, obviously, who don't have cell phones, and no one in their community, no one in their family will have a cell phone. They might be living alone, they might be over 60, they might be living in a rural area. What's going to happen with them?
So they can go to a site directly and register in person. There will be someone to help them. And from what I understood from this morning's press briefing is that if they can go to that site to register, they can get vaccinated on the same day when they go and register. I hope that understanding is correct. And they're also working on a WhatsApp system so that you can register via WhatsApp, and also USSD, which is a type of SMS that you can use that is free. You don't need to have data for it if you have an analog phone. And in addition to that, they are finalizing a manual on how to register that will also be available in all languages in South Africa.
Okay, I mean, there's obviously a ton of work going on in the background. I can just imagine. When you get the second SMS, so when the phone goes ping for the second time to tell you when you're going to get vaccinated, you told us you would know from whether you've got, you might get 2 dates, so you might get 1 date. So you'll actually know which vaccine you're getting.
Yes, I think you will know which vaccine you're getting. I don't think they will give you both dates for Pfizer at the same time. I think you'll get a SMS and then you'll go for a shot, and then once you've had that shot, they will send you the SMS for the second shot. But you won't be able to choose which shot you're going to get. So you can't choose whether you want Pfizer or J&J, but you can sort of like have an indication what you'll get, because Pfizer will be mainly used in urban areas because it's a little harder to store than J&J. And if we go ahead with J&J, that will mainly be used in more rural areas because it's easier to store.
Okay, now that does make sense, and I can just imagine how difficult this is going to be for government in the first place. You mentioned what happens if you're a foreign national. So if you're a foreign national living in South Africa, you still get a vaccine.
Everyone can get a vaccine. There is, however, still a question around the fact that what if you don't have a passport or an asylum-seeking number or one of the other requirements that they want you to have? Then if you're an undocumented migrant, what do you do? And that the health department has not provided an answer for yet. That if you don't have one of the 3 documents that they require you to have, how do you get a vaccination? We don't have an answer to that yet.
And I suppose there will be someone who will raise an objection to this, but from an epidemiological point of view, there, Mia, I said it correctly, from an epidemiological point of view, you actually, as a doctor, any doctor would want to make sure everyone in the country is vaccinated, because that's the only way to protect everybody.
Absolutely, and we have the same arguments in the country when it comes to providing people with ARVs or with TB medication, that it's not wise, it's pretty stupid to say they're not going to provide it to anyone because they can then further spread that disease. So it would be the wise thing to do and the right thing from an epidemiological perspective to provide everyone with a vaccine, because that's how you stop the spread, if you vaccinate everyone.
You referred to an event that you've just been keeping an eye on. I imagine Business for SA, they're obviously a big part of all of this. We know that for business generally, this is an important time. I mean, the more we know about the vaccine rollout, the more quickly it happens, the more confidence there's going to be, the more money there'll be in the economy, frankly. How's business seeing it this afternoon?
Well, the press briefing that I attended this afternoon was actually organized by Business South Africa. That's working closely with various groups, including the government, on vaccination plans. And they announced that some businesses will be able to apply to become temporary vaccination sites and then have all their workers vaccinated and many other people at the site as well. But for those, you would need to adhere to certain rules, you would need a certain permit, you would need a full-time doctor on site, and you would need to be able to have enough freezers or fridges, whichever one is required, to maintain the cold chain of these vaccines. So business seems to be pretty involved. They've also announced that of all the pharmacy groups in South Africa, every single one has agreed to be a vaccination site. So Dis-Chem, Clicks, all of those places have agreed to provide vaccinations. So far, we have 1,200 sites that have been identified, and those sites will be able to vaccinate 115,000 people per day. We're planning to peak in September with vaccinations and go up to 250,000 vaccinations. We obviously only have half that number of sites yet. And during the third wave, they announced that health facilities will be used less often for vaccinations because they will be spending most of their resources on treating people with COVID. So we'll make use more of non-health facilities, so facilities that don't take in patients during the third wave.
We're due to start, of course, on the 17th of May. Mia, I noticed a report this morning saying that people in Canada were frustrated with the Canadian government's slow pace of the rollout there. They haven't had nearly the issues around variants that we've had. The reason I bring this up is that just about every country around the world has frustration over this. Do you think we're going to manage the 17th of May? I mean, once it gets going, I think that's going to change the mood, frankly.
Yes, well, whether we're going to start on the 17th of May all depends on two things. One is when we receive our first batch of Pfizer vaccines, which is supposed to be around about the 5th of May. And when we get the decision from our regulator, SAPRA, on whether we can go ahead with J&J, because we've heard previously that we will receive our first batch of J&J vaccines from Aspen here in South Africa round about the 21st or 22nd of April, but we obviously can't use it when there's no ruling yet. So those two things will depend and determine how soon we can start with this rollout. If that happens before the 17th, yes, then I think we can make it. If it doesn't, then no, we're not going to.
Mia Malan, as always, really do appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed. Editor of the Bhekisisa Centre for Health Journalism. Well, important developments on all of that. We're going to discuss the science of this with the chair of the South African Medical Research Council a little